Hi, I'm Pasternak, and I'm the president and artistic director of Creative Time. You know, I started off actually with a gallery background, and I was wanting to learn how to be a curator, and there weren't curatorial studies programs back in the day. So while I was studying art history, I became curator of an alternative art space in Connecticut called Real Artways. So I was commuting from New York City to Hartford, Connecticut almost every single day to start to curate, and they had a public art program. So not only did they have a gallery space, but we had artists like Mel Chin and Mark Dion creating public projects in the community around the Real Artways neighborhood. And I just loved working so closely with artists. I always did. But I also found that I loved working with people and helping to sort of engage them in artists' ideas and getting them involved and hearing their feedback about what they were experiencing. So, you know, my experience at Real Artways really opened me up to the world of public art. You know, when I came to Creative Time 16 years ago, it's a long time ago, people that I had had long relationships with from my gallery background, had sold them lots of work, had been to their house many, many times for dinner, had considered them friends, wouldn't contribute even $5 to Creative Time because they thought public art was heroes on horseback. They thought it was bad sculptures by bad artists plopped down into civic spaces that people just found to be nuisances. There was a very, I think, narrow understanding of public art. And I think Creative Time has done a fantastic job in this country to help engage people in broader ideas of the role of art in public space. But we're not the only ones. For example, our colleagues at Public Art Fund and Art Production Fund have done a fantastic job at this as well. I've been very blessed at Creative Time to work with extraordinary artists and to work on projects that you know, if I had just the ability to work on one of them, it would have been a life-changing experience, and I could die feeling, wow, I did something important in the world. But in fact, I've had a number of those experiences, you know, from working on the Tribute in Light, the twin beacons of light after the events of 9/11, to working with an artist like Paul Chan and helping to sort of rebuild the spiritual community or rebuild some of the spiritual life of New Orleans, especially in the lower Ninth Ward after Hurricane Katrina, to all sorts of interventions you know, throughout New York City. And about 3 years ago, we started working nationally as well. So another project that comes to mind is Jeremy Deller taking a bombed out car from Baghdad, from a notorious bombing in Baghdad, and taking it across country on the back of an RV, accompanied by an Iraqi citizen, as well as a U.S. soldier who's done 2 tours in Iraq. So, you know, you have from all of these experiences, from, you know, a temporary memorial to a cross-country tour dealing with our understanding, our relationship to the Iraq War, to education, domestic abuse, a relationship to landscape in a more technological world with, you know, let's say an artist like Doug Aiken and projections on the exterior of MoMA. There's just such a range of ideas that artists are engaging with, and such a great range of ways in which they're activating public space. And it's been really an extraordinary experience learning about the world through artists' eyes. We just sent 6 artists to different regions of the world. So we worked with, in no order whatsoever, Maya Lin, Swoon, Waleed Rod, Emily Jassir, Kate Hardy, and Sanford Biggers. About 3 years ago, I had organized a series of dinner conversations with different artists we've worked with, artists we want to work with, and said to them, you know, what are the issues that you're facing? And again, we heard artists saying to us they wanted to create work that was meaningful to the times in which we live, and that they wanted to get off the racetrack of the art markets and the art fairs and all the galleries and institutions that are saying, do this for that show and do this for this opportunity. And that they had their own burning questions that they wanted to address, but they just didn't have the time or the resources. They wanted to go out of their places and do some research and nurture their ideas. So thanks to the Rockefeller Foundation, their Cultural Innovation Fund program, we were able to pilot an initiative which simply sends artists who we really respect to other regions of the world where they have burning questions. We thought out of the first 6 artists that we sent to different regions of the world, as diverse as South America, Asia, Middle East, Swoon was helping to rebuild a village actually in Haiti since the earthquake. That, you know, these artists wouldn't necessarily come up with projects, but maybe a few of them would, and it looks like actually all of them are coming up with projects, that this research process is going to really help to substantially inspire whole new bodies of work for these artists. You know, you can never really predict how people are going to respond to a project, and work that I would never have considered to be controversial at all tends to be the work that ignites fury and fear and even bigotry. But regardless, I find that it's really important as a presenter that you really think through with every project very carefully how a project might be received. One of my favorite projects was working with an artist I've loved working with named Steve Powers, who's a kind of legendary graffiti artist, goes by the name Espo. And we had done years of work together in Coney Island, and one year he decided a few years ago that he wanted to take on the issue of waterboarding. That, you know, it was before everybody was really paying attention to waterboarding as a form of torture, perpetrated by the U.S. government, and that this was, of course, a huge cultural shift in U.S. history, that we would condone torture. So he wanted to take over an arcade in Coney Island and have animatrons, robots, waterboard each other. And so you put like $1 in the slot and lights come on and music comes on, and then you see these robots waterboarding each other. And it was called the Waterboard Thrill Ride, which, you know, to human rights activists on the left would be, you know, probably extremely offensive, and an artist taking on the subject of waterboard or torture in this country to the right would probably, in the media, they'd probably go nuts. So we had to be prepared for, you know, critique from both ends. Why would you call it waterboarding a thrill ride, and why are these robots doing this, and what are you trying to get out of it? And fortunately, you know, Steve is an extremely articulate, an extremely clever guy, and he really had perfect answers for people on the left and the right and everywhere in between. You know, as an organization, when you work with an artist who's taking on an issue like torture, calling it a thrill ride, and you know that that's likely to ignite Fox News and CNN and the rest of them, you know, to get excited, you need to be prepared for it and brace up for it and be open to that discussion, as opposed to fearful and close it down and censor and stop a project. We have never censored a project, never. We have never turned down a project because we thought it would ignite too much fury. That would never have been a reason. If we felt that the artist had something really important to say that needed to be said, and that it was a responsible conversation to have, no matter how much controversy it might ignite, no matter how much it might upset people, we would engage in that.